from the Energy Boutique with your energy and ascension forecast for Sunday, June 4th to Saturday, June 10th. So last week we closed out May. We entered into June and of course shifted into a brand new vibration, a brand new frequency that most of us can definitely agree took place. We all feel it. We all kind of feel the sensation of an energy lift, if you will. That's a very good sign. And of course, we had some pretty significant astrology helping us out with that particular shift. Jupiter conjunct the true node was the main contributing factor for that major shift, as it kind of sprinkled some magic fairy dust on all of us, giving us a beautiful perspective, beautiful opportunity to see our realities from a different set of eyes, where it is that we want to grow, where it is that we want to boss up, especially where relationships and money matters are concerned. Of course, Jupiter is going to be in this Taurus energy for the next year, really giving us a huge opportunity to make some, yes, low and slow progress. But by the time we are done with this particular aspect, we're going to look back and say, wow, I accomplished way more than I ever thought that I was doing in the time, in the space, at the place in which I just couldn't see it. Sometimes you get a little bit too close to the forest to be able to see that it's made up of a bunch of little trees. But we are getting this extra oomph, if you will, from the true node. It's a very karmic point. We're on the right path. We're opening up to a new mission, direction, purpose. For those of you wondering where it is that all your hints and clues are, it doesn't mean that it didn't happen. May I remind you that when we talk about these direct aspects popping off, it doesn't happen just at the snap of the fingers. Means that this door has been opened, this energy has been activated. It does need a little bit of time to actually manifest. However, the energy is very palpable. It's here. Our soul feels it, even though our headspace can't yet see it. We had Mercury, ruler of the mental plane, ruler of information, ruler of communication, clear his post-retrograde shadow period on the 1st as well, kind of removing the last little bit of mental fog, mental confusion. I think we could all kind of agree that there has been a very, very interesting shift in our perspective. The existential dread doesn't seem so thick, so heavy, even if we are still kind of fighting our way out of the funk. And of course, if you're listening to me Friday evening, then we are still yet to have our full moon in Sag. That would be taking place late Saturday, early morning Sunday, depending on where it is that you're at and the time zone that you're in. But we're already in this full moon energy. We are kind of being sandwiched between the shifting energies that June 1st brought and, of course, the peak illumination energy of this full moon in Sag that we will talk about here in just a second. So this week, what do we got going on? Okay, well, we will be kind of settling into the fact that we are going to have a huge illumination, a peak energy, a major energetic shift in perspective and understanding and information and in direction due to this full moon in Sag. So over the course of this next week, of course, we reach the full moon. We're moving into the last quarter moon in Aquarius energy. So between the full moon and the last quarter moon, things come to a peak, they come to a high, and then they start the moon starts dissolving again, starts kind of losing its intensity. What that does for us is it kind of highlights a new perspective, a new point, a new path, a new direction. And now we spend this week kind of formulating a plan about it. So this week we have Venus, the goddess of love, beauty, worth, pleasure, money, moving out of Cancer energy, moving into Leo energy, the heart and soul of the zodiac, who, by the way, her masculine counterpart, Mars, already in this Leo energy. And again, just a reminder, Venus and Mars spend an eternity chasing each other around the cosmos. They have a couple of peak points in the year where they get to meet up. They get to do what we call the lover's kiss. And in those particular points of time, we do see a reset of the masculine and feminine energies, not only within us, but within our personal relationships, and of course on the greater, grander collective scale as well. And of course, we've been doing a lot of inner child work, a lot of feminine healing work, each and every single one of us. We've seen a lot of that take place with Venus's time in Cancer, because she got us back to the nitty gritty of seeing what it is that we need to do for ourselves. where it is that nobody is coming to save us, where we have to kind of be the version of ourselves that we hoped was going to come and kind of swoop in and save us when we were children. We had to identify where it is that wounds are still alive and well, where it is that we did not feel safe, secure, encouraged, or supported. And now we are recognizing what it is that we have to do for ourselves to kind of invoke those types of emotions and create that kind of stability and security that is going to make us feel good, safe, secure, without waiting on other people to do those particular things for us. Now, moving into Leo energy, the heart and soul of the zodiac, this is going to be a totally different game, a totally different energy for a couple of reasons. First of all, Venus in Leo energy, she's very passionate. She has a lot of desires, especially romantic, sexual desires, if she will. She even has a lot of desires to express herself, to get that level of affection, that level of gratitude, that overall attitude owed into the world. We've been keeping things to ourselves. We've been mulling over things, trying to formulate a plan. Well, now it's time to actually share those particular aspects with the people around us, with the world around us. So because Venus is very focused on self-worth, self-love, because she's focused on relationships, money matters, long-term goals, we are getting to the heart and the soul of the matter, to our real, raw, authentic selves. We are exploring where it is that we have to realign with our higher selves, because again, our ego kind of gets the best of us sometimes. And we have to kind of understand what it is that we're being called to pursue. Now, considering the fact that when Venus moves into this Leo energy, she's going to be in a direct opposition with Pluto, the great transformer, who is retrograde in Aquarian energy. This is just going to drive home the tough love life lessons that we've been learning with boundaries. Where do we need stronger boundaries? Why do we need boundaries? Well, first of all, so that we're not giving our power away. Secondly, so that we don't get taken advantage of. Thirdly, so that we don't allow the outside world to rock us and sway us and throw us off of our game. Venus being kind of directly opposed by the great transformer himself, this is a continuation of the empowerment journey that the feminine divine energy has been going through for many, many moons now. And if you want to kind of rewind back to the very first day of 2023, we had Pluto and Venus usher us into 2023. And of course, we're in the vibration of 7 for the year of 2023, which Venus rules over, which is about finding balance, making peace with ourselves, really kind of, creating a world where happiness and harmony are a thing. And of course, all of those energies have to start within the relationship with ourselves first before they can overflow and affect the relationships that we choose to pour into. So this is kind of a very pivotal point, if you will, on recognizing where it is that we're pulling our energy back from other people, where it is that we're implementing some boundaries, not because we don't love them, not because we don't want them to be a part of our world, but because we realize that if we continue to pour the bulk of our energy in other people, we don't have enough energy reserved for ourselves. And we really have to get back to doing what is right for us, what makes us happy, what brings us a sense of safety and security. And having Venus be in this Leo energy, the heart and soul of the zodiac, you best believe we are willing to stand alone if it means that we are at our happiest point. No longer are we going to be kind of guilt tripped into doing what it is that we think other people want us to do. We are really starting to align with our individuality, with our unique energy, and really go after what it is that we want. So we have Venus shifting into Leo energy, doing that Plutonian opposition on the 5th. And speaking of Pluto, this is going to be the last week for Pluto to be retrograde in this Aquarian energy. We will be dipping back into that Capricorn energy here on the 11th. So, we're not going to get it kind of squeezed into this forecast. We'll definitely be talking about it more next week. But Pluto retrograding back into the Capricorn energy is going to put the weight of responsibility back on our shoulders, back on our heart space. We have to kind of dive into the tough love life lessons that we had to sit in from 2008 up until March of this year. And we were so eager to get away from that particular funk, from that weight, from that role, from that responsibility, that we just dove into this Aquarian energy trying to free ourselves up a bit. We definitely had a little bit of time to get a breather, to kind of gain a different perspective. And now we have to go back. We have to go inward. We have to examine where it is that we're still giving our power away, where it is that we lack control over our own actions, our own mental plane, our own power of creation. This Capricorn energy will have us examining the old structures, the old foundations that we were too eager to get away from and didn't provide a proper ending or closure to. This is all, again, in efforts to kind of cut through the negative narratives, cut through the weight that we thought we had kind of lifted off of our shoulders. We have to go back now that we have a different perspective, that we've leveled up, that we're in different timelines, that we've had certain circumstances change, and really examine where it is that the blocks, the restrictions are holding us back from kind of aligning with this new path, this new direction, this new vision, this new dream that, of course, we kind of got illuminated to in this Aquarian energy. The wrap up will also be taking place here this week with Mercury, ruler of the mental plane, ruler of information communication, in his rulership in Gemini season, because he will be wrapping up his time in Taurus energy. Yes, that's right. We've been in this Taurus energy for a very long time. A lot of that was because Mercury had to retrograde in this Taurus energy, which of course had us tunnel vision and very focused on our physical realms, what needed to change, what needed to die, what needed to end in order for us to clear the space to have a new slate, a new foundation in order for us to build our physical realms on. Why are we doing this, you may ask? Well, the Taurus energy needs us to love ourselves a little bit more, to see the self-worth, the self-value within ourselves a little bit more. We need to fill our love cup up in order for us to realize where it is that we're still in certain situations and circumstances that are currently below us. We have to rearrange and reorganize. Of course, Mercury was retrograde at the same time we were in eclipse season. So we had a lot of wild card energies thrown at us that either threw a fork or a wrench in some tough love life lessons for us to realize where we need to do a little bit more self-love, self-work to boost our self-esteem, our self-confidence, or we maybe had a wrench thrown into our day-to-day lives so that our routines were totally disrupted, so that we could create a new one, more focused on taking care of our physical body, our physical selves. Maybe you had a wrench thrown into some relationship dynamics. Of course, that Taurus energy rules over that relationship dynamic, and money matters. And so, sometimes relationship dynamics and money matters, they go part and parcel. They go hand in hand. Regardless, our long-term vision, our long-term goals, our long-term dreams were definitely disrupted in a big way because we had elements fall apart, fall away that we can no longer kind of build with or even include in our vision and in our dreams. So having Mercury kind of move through these final degrees of Taurus energy, yes, we are in a different landscape, a different mindset, a different perspective. And then when Mercury moves into Gemini energy, its place of power, you best believe that that is going to bring a full closure to the first half of Gemini season. That if you've been listening to me for any amount of time, you would know that I have been saying that Gemini season was split in very two distinct parts. The first part was low and slow, really a cluster F of the mental plane. We haven't been able to see as much progress as we would like. That door is closing. Once the 11th hits, you best believe we are going to feel the universe press that fast forward button. We are going to have many, many things pop off at us all at one time. This is essentially making up for last time. This is essentially processing new thoughts, new ideas, new information, new details at an accelerated rate so that we can jump down from the fence that we've been sitting on, very split, very divided in choices, decisions, path, directions, and we can actually align with one over the other. Of course, if you listen to the June energy forecast, you would know that the last week of Gemini season before we jump into Cancer season is going to be a pivotal choice point where we are going to decide, choose, align with whatever it is that we've been on the fence about, so that we can get to building those particular foundations and structures in our lives, bringing those ideas to life, bringing those elements into fruition when we jump into Cancer season. I am going to recommend that you absorb all the information that I put out there. There's so much information out there in all different levels, whether free or content or paid content, workbooks, e-guides, zodiac forecasts. There's so much information out there. There should be no reason for you to be caught in a surprise, for you to not stay ahead of these energies. There is no reason why you can't absorb all this information. Make sure you are as well informed and educated as possible as we move through these very rapid changing times. We are going to feel a major amount of head pressure. It is going to feel really crazy, really chaotic after the 11th. So it would be very advisable that you get a grip, that you ground yourself, that you get your mind right, that you know exactly what it is that your tasks, your chores need you to do, need you to fulfill before we get into the last week of Gemini season. And of course, on the 10th, we will be having the last quarter moon in Aquarius energy. And as you know, the Aquarian energy is the observer, is the visionary of the zodiac. The last quarter moon wraps up a cycle, brings all the information in dating back to the new moon. We have to sort through it now. We have to decide what's going to stay, what's going to go, what's going to grow, what's going to die. I said that backwards. It doesn't rhyme. Piece it together. Maybe we'll do it again. Let's do it again. Here's the Gemini energy. What needs to stay? What needs to go? What needs to die? What needs to grow? That flows so much better. So let's just pretend that that happened right from the beginning and let's move on. The last quarter moon in Aquarius energy is going to put a certain finality into the decisions that we have been torn between, into the path, the choices that we have been on the fence about. The Aquarian energy is going to free us from a lot of the weight, a lot of the constructs, a lot of the restrictions that we have been facing, especially in this first half of Gemini season, where it has been heavy, it has been weighted, it has been stagnant. And again, reminder, all of that is due to the Taurus energy that we've had an overabundance in. The earth energy weighs us down. It slows our progress. It makes us feel heavy, semi-lazy, semi-stagnant. We should be getting some physical energy back after the 11th, but there's definitely going to be an acceleration of events, of circumstances, of information and details coming to light for us to process in a very, very fast way. Really, really pushing us into some profound aha moments that's going to absolutely change the game for us. So we need to be ready. We need to be prepared. That is the astrology for the week ahead. So before I jump into the Ascension symptoms, I definitely want to take a little bit of time to do some homework. And of course, the very first thing on my list every week is to thank you. I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for liking, for sharing, for commenting. I want to thank you for showing up in the chat. I want to thank you for the love and support. I want to thank you for the love and support that you show each other. This is a beautiful community. I love seeing your guys' conversations just kind of motor through, giving each other, kindness and love and support, validation, confirmation. It is such a beautiful thing to see y'all just having a great grand chat, not only here in the live chat, but in the comment section below all the videos. It's just an amazing thing that y'all just show up for each other, and I just love to see it. So thank you so much for that. I also want to thank you for those of you who jumped over and are supporting me on my Patreon. I hope that you have taken advantage of downloading all the things. And of course, all the things are included in the gold tier package. You get the zodiac forecast, you get the e-guides, you get the moon guides, you get all the things and all the content. And I want to thank you so much for those of you supporting me over there. And of course, if you're not a gold tier member, you still get the discount code. So I really do recommend, I do understand that not everybody wants to get into another subscription. And for that case, like I mentioned, you can go over and download all of the things individually from my website, although it is going to cost you a lot more to do so. Becoming a Patreon member, of course, kind of just jams all of the great things into a little glorious ball that is much more affordable to stay up on all the energies and of course do all the work. So I want to thank you so much for all of that. And I also wanted to let you know that my VIPs have had a couple of days to kind of select their spots for the appointments in June. And so now my calendar is open to the public. If you are interested in booking a session with me, please jump over to my website, hit up the service tabs, book the session that you feel drawn to book. There's not very many appointments left, so I would really kind of encourage you to not put that on the back burner. So we are going to start talking about the Ascension symptoms, but one topic and theme that I want to kind of kick off and start off with plays in a little bit to last week's Ascension symptoms. Well, not really the symptoms, but the forecast I said. I was kind of just mentioning how we're going to see a shift in weather and some, natural and not so natural man-made catastrophes, if you will, weather events, if you will. I was kind of saying that the vision that I was getting, especially around a lot of the dormant volcanoes that are going to kind of wake up and become a little bit more active, I do think that the majority of them are natural and organic in nature, just because, of course, we talked about how Mother Earth, Gaia herself, she's the one going through the ascension journey. We're just the parasites that live and feed off of her. And so we have no choice to go through the ascension journey because, of course, she's going through it. So if we don't kind of grow with her, then we ain't going with her. And you will see the people that are choosing to leave Earth at this time, regardless of which way they're doing it, they're just not on the same ascension path. They're not able to reach those vibrations and frequencies that all of us need to reach in order to kind of go on this particular journey with her. Now, a lot of those volcano issues and a lot of the earthquake issues and a lot of those particular natural disasters, if you will, those are being activated by the ley lines, because the ley lines are the electrical meridians that run through the earth. We have them in our body as well. That's how we connect to the earth. But we're talking about Mother Earth right now. She's getting charged up in ways that she hasn't been charged up and alive in many, many moons. And that's why we're going to see a rapid, I'm going to say pace and acceleration of events taking place, where just like wild, earthly events are popping off. But one thing I want to talk about, and I will put a disclaimer out there, YouTube already hates me. I have been trying to keep my tongue a little bit polite here on this channel to prevent YouTube from raking me through the coals again. And just to give you a good indication, I made all of $200 throughout the month of May from YouTube. That is a significant drop in what it is that I was making. And I do understand, and I'm not going to take up too much of this time to complain about it, because as you know, I complain about it all too often. However, the reason why I'm kind of, giving you this warning is because I'm about to talk about some stuff that will definitely hurt me further. But I don't care at this point. What I'm about to talk about is a little bit of a hot topic, no pun intended. I want to talk about fires. So, as you may or may not know, I live in Canada. For the longest time, for the majority of my life, I've lived in Nova Scotia. I have spent quite a chunk of time out west, and now I live in New Brunswick. So, Canada's on fire, guys. Don't know if you knew this or not. It is a absolute shit show here in Canada. And everybody is just in a state of disbelief on how all of these fires could start over our whole country all at one time. And specifically, I want to talk about Nova Scotia because my hometown is on fire right now. It has been so sad to have to watch, neighborhoods, areas that I was very familiar and frequented quite often, watching friends and family be displaced and be really affected by these fires. It is absolutely terrifying. Fire is one of the things that terrifies me the most, and I kind of contribute that of having many, many lifetimes being burned at the stake, and I suppose this life is no different, been burned at a stake in a different kind of circumstance, if you will. But these fires are not natural in nature, and anybody that has even an inclination of intuition should be able to kind of step back and see that none of this is a natural progression of fires. And I don't want anybody coming at me talking about where these fires initially came from, because there's a lot of controversy over that. I'm not here to create any more confrontation and divide. I'm here to hopefully shine a bright light on the fact that we need to prepare for more and more catastrophes like this to take place. Especially seeing how, the whole climate change, climate control agenda is kind of what they're using in order to create, new emergency acts and, to use different rules and mandates to basically lock people up once again. What's happening in Nova Scotia because of the fires right now is no different than the pandemic and what, that whole shit show caused either. I do understand that there is a difference between a medical catastrophe and, of course, let's call it natural. What do you even want to call it? It's not even a natural event. I don't even know what to call it. It's an emergency, okay? It's a devastation. It is an emergency. It is not natural. It is man-made. And it has been just an absolute horrific thing to watch, especially being so far away. Not that I could have helped if I was there, but it just makes you kind of put things into perspective. Out west has been on fire for a while now, and that was my old stomping ground as well. And it just, I'm in a safe place right now, but that doesn't mean that it couldn't become a example on what the government can do, what their agenda is, and what this whole climate control, climate change agenda is going to lead us all into, which, as I briefly mentioned last week, it is all about devastating areas, pushing people into, first of all, homelessness, because then you're really dependent on the government. Secondly, pushing everyone into more of the urban areas, city areas, in order for these 15-minute cities to actually, have a standing chance to take form. And I hate seeing it. I hate being right about some of these things. I feel like it's way too close to home, but the fire situation is out of control. And so for all of us out there, if we could just take a moment, I know Canada is not the only place going through these devastating situations right now, but if we could all just take a moment and just remind ourselves that fear is what they want to instill in us in order to override that fear, flip the script, and hopefully terminate and collapse their timeline. We have to rise above that. So we need to kind of just all envision that the world is receiving the rain in the areas that it needs to be rained in. We have to kind of give love to Gaia, to Mother Earth herself, just apologize for the ill treatment of Mother Earth. We have done this to her, and essentially there is a group of people doing this to us. So again, we're very small on the parasitic food chain that Earth has going on here right now. But we all just have to visualize that we can collectively come together and make a change in this timeline. And so I've been doing whatever I can as far as visualization goes, bringing hopefully the rain needed to the areas that are just needing that rain, and, protecting as many pets as we can and as many people as we can, and just kind of, sending as much love to the people that are sitting in fear and sitting in devastation. We have the ability with our mind space, with our heart space, to change the game here. And I think it's very important that, sometimes we come together in solidarity and we all focus on just returning the natural balance to the earth. And I think by holding that into our mind space, into our heart space, that, hopefully we can override this very gross, sadistic type of programming that this group of people have for this earth plane, and that we can collapse that timeline and that narrative, and that we can restore Mother Earth and those upon it to their natural state of health and wellness. And that's what I hope for each and every single person on the earth right now. And especially I'm giving an extra little bit of love to my hometown back there in Nova Scotia, and of course out west as well. I'm not trying to leave anybody out here. I know there are major things going on in all areas of the world that we all need to just kind of share our love into. And I really, really just want to kind of enforce the fact that there are going to be more opportunities for this agenda to create devastation in these ways, and that we have to do the best that we can to not play into the anger and the fear that they want to invoke in us, because of course anger and fear is what they feed upon, and we need to counteract that and kind of veto that out and equate that with love, with patience, with understanding. And of course the gift that we should all be hoping for is for Mother Earth to return to her natural state of balance. So I wanted to get that out of the way, but let me just say that it's not a coinky-dink, okay? Not a coinky-dink that all these fires are all around the world, not just in Canada, but fires started happening when, of course, we moved into Gemini season, which is air, oxygen, and we have Mars, the god of war, okay, damage and destruction, in Leo energy, a fire energy. What does the Leo energy do? Well, it returns us back to our most raw, authentic state. And although we don't want to see, forests being burned down, people losing their houses and lives and animals' lives in the run of all of that, a lot of the things that we've done to Mother Earth is not natural or organic in its state. And as you often hear me talk about, there is a beautiful thing about fire. As beautifully dangerous as it is, it does have the ability to totally kind of clean the slate. And in those areas where we do see fire, the vegetation kind of comes back at a growth and at a vibrancy that we haven't seen in a very long time. So as much as we don't want to see, wildfires just totally destroying our earth, to a certain extent, it is kind of returning it to a different foundation of growth, if you will. And I think that if we can all just orient our minds to focus on the silver linings and what we can create out of the space that is being devastated, then we have a chance in hell of overriding this timeline, this storyline, this narrative, and hopefully collapse it on itself so that we can create new earth in its place. Of course, that's what we should be doing each and every day. But the wild energies, of course, are going to continue to pop off, and we are going to continue to see a lot of, I'm going to say, man-made situations appearing like natural disasters. We're going to see that more and more until everybody wakes up and realizes what's going on here, and then we can collectively focus our mind space, our heart space, on creating the kind of world that we want to live in. And right now, this just ain't it. This just ain't it. Anyways, I wanted to put that out there because my heart and soul has just been devastated over this past week of just watching too much of this kind of basic bullshit take place. And last week I talked about the insurance industry being part and parcel of this whole scam. It has been an absolute eye-opener to know that some of the banks that many Nova Scotians hold their insurance with have totally terminated their insurance policies due to the wildfires and coming up with policy clauses and amendments that just totally get them off the hook altogether. And we're talking like, as of right now, 200 plus homes and structures just wiped out, and in a very, very, I'm going to say, expensive area to live in. So these were not just like shanties, not that that makes it any better. But these banks, these insurance people, these they are just in the pocket of this grander agenda here. And this is going to become more and more eye-opening as we see, some of these events pop off, and then the repercussions of how, some of these bigger systems try to rectify the situation. And again, I get no thrill, no satisfaction whatsoever of being right when horrible things happen. I would give anything to be wrong, but unfortunately it doesn't happen too often. And all I'm going to say is that we really have to be a little bit more diligent to understand our rights, to understand the policies that we agree and pay for. We have to understand how to protect ourselves. We have to understand that all of us could be evacuated from our homes in a moment's notice, depending on where it is that they would like to direct their little energy weapons from here. And yep, I said it. There is weapons out there. Look it up if you have no clue what I'm talking about. I do have a feeling that they have had a lot of activity, a lot of activation take place over Canada for sure, because that's where I'm at. So that's what I'm mostly exposed to. And a lot of what Canada is going through right now is due to weather manipulation and direct energy weapon manipulation as well. And so, we have to become a little bit more aware about the fact that these things exist and that it's not foo-foo, it's not conspiracy theory, it is a thing. There's patents, there's laws, there's all kinds of stuff that our government has put out there on the interweb that if you dig deep enough, you can definitely see the truth right in your face. And I feel like we are going to have more and more of these events take place until we revolt. Hate to tell you, but the age of Aquarius requires a revolution. And that revolution means that we need to rebel, we need to revolt, and flipping this whole regime right over is absolutely what our goal should be. And slowly but surely, with the mass awakenings that have already taken place and the few and far between sporadic awakenings taking place now, with just these devastating situations forcing people to really take a good look at the world we live in, we should be in our prime spot here in no time. And again, I'm talking between 2025 and 2027, because there's some major things happening around that time where we are going to start to see the fighting back, if you will. How the people take their power back. How we stand in our sovereignty once again, and how we absolutely dismantle this shit show of a government that has taken over the world and pushed their disgusting agendas on us and have suffocated the human race to a point in which we don't even know who we're fighting anymore. Many of us fighting ourselves, fighting our neighbors, family and friends, when they are not the enemy. They are just disillusioned and misunderstanding the greater, grander picture here. The enemy is them. Let's make that very clear. But also, in the grand scheme of things, I'm talking from a 3D dualistic polarized perspective, when in actuality, we are in a human video game and we are playing this video game quite well, if you want to understand it from a bigger, broader perspective. The enemy, quote unquote, enemy is needed in this dualistic state of the earth realm. Outside of here, these constructs don't exist, so don't worry about it. You're not going to be stuck in these particular cycles for your eternal life. This is just a human video game. We kind of have to remember to see all of these situations and circumstances from different levels, different vibrations, different frequencies, and a lot of, what we're talking about here on this earth plane is still of the 3D type of perspective. So, of course, when you jump up to 4D and, of course, into 5D, there is no polarity. There is no dualistic energies. There are no enemies. We are all the same. We are just mirroring back the darker and lighter parts of the collective's experience, and that's where things get tricky. But for this particular forecast, because I did ranting about, those agendas happening here on 3D Earth, please just understand that I have multiple perspectives of what's going on here, but I'm an angry human here this week. I'm a hurt human. And what is happening to other humans on this earth plane is really getting to me when we start seeing the actual in-your-face evidence of, some of the horrible things that this very small group of not so nice people are doing to this earth plane, and of course the inhabitants of this earth plane as well. So that is my weather rant. That is my anger rant, if you will. I'm trying to orient into, love and peace and harmony and all that lovely stuff that is going to have us kind of overriding this particular game. But every now and then you got to remind yourself that you're human, you're entitled to your feelings, and sometimes those feelings suck. Okay, so let's talk about some ascension symptoms here. So we feel like we're on a change, right? We feel the change. We feel like we're changing. We feel like we're on the cusp of change. Our soul knows that we're about to move into some major changes, and knows long before our headspace ever will. And so this is where we kind of, and again, full moon in Sag. What is the full moon in Sag illuminating? The axis of information and beliefs, where it is that logic and practicality and intuition and faith need to be balanced in order for us to stand in our wholeness, to stand in our power. So when it comes to cusp changes, we have a belief, we have faith. We, in our soul space, in our energy, soul self, know that things are about to change for the better. We're about to jump into some major opportunities to change our realities in some very, very beneficial ways. But our headspace, our ego self is like, nope, don't see any evidence of it. Can't see it happening. Nope, not going to hope for that. We just have to stick to what it is that we know to be true, and logic and practicality tells us nothing is changing. Everything is staying the same. Well, we know better than that. It's always good to remind your higher self that, guess what, this ego, we've given the power to the ego for a very long time. So it's having a hard time passing over the power to our intuitive selves, if you will. But we just need to keep the faith. We know that we're onto something big. This full moon in Sag is going to be a very pivotal point in change and action and opportunity. We definitely feel that taking place. Now, I just want to kind of elaborate a little bit. I said earlier that the existential dread is less, and our hopeful demeanor is a little bit more. Well, that's great. That is a good vibration to tap into with this full moon in Sag. And I just want to also, remind you that when we talk about, again, these astrology aspects happening on a specific day, and for this example, we're going to talk about Jupiter and the true node bringing this magical opportunity for growth and expansion where relationships, money matters, and our long-term goals are concerned. Because it has its aspect on a specific day does not mean that it's going to manifest in your life on that day. It is essentially, and I talk about the astrology a lot in this way, I want you to visualize all the planets having a particular knob, a volume knob, if you will. And what we have to understand, it's like certainly like a safe when you have to spin the wheel to the safe until you hear that click. And then you go the other way and you have to find the other click. And then you have to go the opposite direction, find that third click, and then damn, your safe opens. Ta-da, you just cracked the code, okay? So the knobs, they're in a specific alignment right now where we just opened up the safe, okay? We haven't opened the door yet. It just clicked. It just opened. Now we have a very interesting time frame and window where we get to open the safe up and see what is actually inside it. And so that's why I say to you, when the aspect actually takes place, if nothing happens to you in your physical reality on that day, it doesn't mean that you missed it. It doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. It means that you cracked the code, you just haven't opened the door to the safe yet. And over the next couple of weeks, we're going to start seeing some major hints and clues and confirmations and validations in our physical realm of the path, of the direction, of the purpose that we need to be orienting to. It's going to become clear as day. So if you don't see it right now, that's okay. You didn't miss anything. You didn't get left off the ride here. You just need to have a little bit more patience. And as we've been talking about, none of us have been born with patience, and none of us have been able to find it on Amazon. Okay. We don't know where to buy patience. So it's something that we're constantly have to work on and bring into practice because it's not something that naturally comes to us. Patience. But we have to have hope. We have to have faith. And that's what this full moon in Sag is offering us, is a restoration of our faith, of our trust in the greater, grander plan in the process. And as long as we have hope that things are changing and that things will be okay and that things are going to get better, then they will, because that's how manifestation works. So we just have to hold the faith. Now, there is going to be a lot of head pressure, okay? Especially after we get out of this Mercury and Taurus energy and we jump into Mercury in its place of power and Gemini energy. My goodness, head pressure. Right now, we still have blinders on. Okay. I want you to consider this. When you're in the dark for a long time, you don't even realize that you've been in the dark. You can see things in your environment in the dark because your eyes have adapted to that. But then suddenly you open the curtains or you go outside and suddenly it feels like your eyes are going to explode because you've been sitting in the dark for so long that you have a hard time adjusting, being able to perceive or even take in the environment that your eyes are currently looking at because it's too bright. That is what we are going to experience, especially towards the end of this week while we're wrapping up this Taurus energy. We're taking the blinders off. We're realizing, oh my goodness, I've only been able to see a quarter of the dark room that I've been sitting in because I didn't even know that I had blinders on. And then all of a sudden, Mercury moves into Gemini energy. We bust those blinders off and we open the curtains and suddenly our eyes are just burning. We can't believe that we were sitting in the dark for so long. We can't even believe that we can't see. We don't even know what we're looking at. Our eyes need time to adjust. They need time to focus. And fortunately for us, this is not going to be a long, drawn-out period of time. It's going to be a very, very accelerated and rapid process, which means that we're likely going to feel that head pressure, feel that sensation in our changing of the senses, if you will. I want to remind you that Taurus energy is connected to the physical body and very reliant on the five senses in order to gauge whether or not we want to continue doing something if it feels good, or that we have to break away from doing certain things because it doesn't feel good. And Mercury being in this Taurus energy had us kind of contemplating our physical sensation, what feels good, what doesn't, what we need to let go of, what it is that we need to kind of lean closer into. But we're all up in the mental plane when we move into that Gemini energy. So we move out of the physical sensation of the stagnancy, the heaviness, the weight, the achiness, the pain that many of us have been experiencing, being kind of paralyzed in this time of action. And then all of a sudden, our minds are just spinning, and they are spinning at such a high pressurized rapid rate that it is going to feel like our head at some point might just explode. Now, it's not, okay? It's not, but it's going to feel like it could. And I also want to talk about the fact that our ears are going to go through the pressurized system again. And again, I often use the analogy. I'm going to use it again here. When you're in an airplane and your ears kind of pop and you don't even realize that they're as muffled and popped as they are until you kind of swallow and they click and then they clear, then you're like, oh, wow, I had no idea that I was like living underwater and hearing everything from a muffled type of perspective. Well, that is going to happen as well. We're going to feel that head pressure, yes, in our head space, yes, in our neck, yes, in our thoughts, in our rapid processing, having too many tabs open in our brains, essentially, but it's going to affect the pressure in our ears. It's going to affect the pressure in our foreheads, our third eye, and our sinuses in the congestion. We're taking those Rice Krispie tingles that we experienced in the top of our head and our crown space last week, and we're going to now put it in the front of our face. So our sinuses, our eyes, our nose, our mouth, down to our throat. We're going to feel all of those tingles, snap, crackle, pop-ish type of Rice Krispie effects that I described last week. We're now going to feel that shift into the front of our face, into our sinuses and our eyes and our mouth. Now, these are tingles, and I would say maybe not as much as the Rice Krispie sensation as, you know, that time and space where you're about to sneeze and then your eyes get all squinty and you got to close your eyes and you're waiting for that and your breath is all off because you're waiting for the achoo, but you're just grasping for air at that point and you're just waiting for it to come. But the sensation, the tingles in your nose, in your sinuses, in your eyes, in your face, like it's overwhelming. And whether the sneeze comes or not, in this case, probably not. It's just going to feel like we're on the verge of having a sneeze. It's a very weird sensation, and it takes us out of it takes us out of our environments, and it puts us very much in our physical bodies. And when Mercury kind of finishes up with this Taurus energy, and of course, you know, we still have other earth energies anchoring us into our physical body and making us kind of low and slow and connected to our physical bodies. However, when Mercury is done with this Taurus energy and moves into that Gemini energy, like we're going to see a rapid clearing of the fogginess, of the head congestion, of the pressure. Like it's going to constantly be changing. The pressurized energy changing different areas of our crown, different areas of our face, constantly still in our head space, because of course Mercury being in Gemini and having two crowns on his head, ruling over Gemini season, and now in the rulership of his most powerful placement in Gemini energy, he's double crowned at this point. And guess what? Those crowns weigh very heavily on our crown, our head space, We're definitely going to be feeling the fake sneeze, the Rice Krispie tingles, all up in our headspace. So it is going to feel extra pressurized. I want to continue to remind you that Jupiter, okay, ruler of this full moon in Sag, kind of the star of, I want to say kind of the star of the show of June. Again, if you listen to the June energy forecast, which I really hope you do, you would know that we started June off on a Thursday, which is Jupiter ruled. And on that very first day of June, we had, of course, Jupiter in the true node pop off for the first time in 12 years, which is a very karmic and magical event. So Jupiter, who is about growth and expansion, is definitely pushing the boundaries of our comfort zone and pushing the boundaries of what it is that we believe to be possible, especially where the mental plane is concerned. So we have that going for us, but Jupiter tends to be a little bit extra. Okay. I want to talk about being extra for a second. Now, you could be extra emotional. You could be extra intuitive. You could be extra dramatic. You could be extra manic. You could be extra negative. You could be extra pessimistic. However you allow this energy to manifest is going to be over magnified by Jupiter. He tends to over exaggerate the situation. I always like to kind of connect Jupiter's energy with an analogy that has to do with cars. So, when you look at your side mirrors or your rear view mirror and it says like objects may appear closer than they actually are type of thing, that is Jupiter's vibe. He accentuates things and makes them appear bigger than they are, or larger than they actually are, or more dramatic than they actually are. It's a little bit of extra-ness. Now, let me also just say, we have Mars in Leo. We have Venus approaching this Leo energy. Nobody is as extra as Leo placements. Why is that? Well, because the sun rules them. And of course, the sun is, the reason why we're here. Okay. Leo energy tends to be a little bit extra. Leo energy wants the spotlight. We don't mind a little bit of drama if it means all eyes on us. And, the heart and soul of the zodiac, there's a lot of emotions there. There's a lot of energy there. And we are, for the most part, going to feel way extra. Just like not only are we the cherry on top, we are 2 cherries on top because we're still in Gemini season. So everything is doubled. But this magnification, hopefully we can keep it in a good attitude, in a good perspective, because that's going to work really well for us. But just know that if you're in a funk, if you're in a state of sadness, if you're in a state of conflict, tension, and turmoil, that this is likely going to be magnified by Jupiter as well, which of course doesn't feel good. But the whole, anytime you find yourself in a tension point of conflict, it's because you're resisting a change that needs to be made. And you should really examine your egoic programming to see where the blip is in that programming, not being able to release you from those particular constructs. And of course, you have the opportunity to rewrite the script at any point in time. So we don't want to sit in the funk. Nobody ever wants to sit in the funk. But if you are sitting in the funk and it is going to be overblown and over exaggerated by Jupiter's influence, just please understand that you have a huge opportunity for growth and expansion if you were to just kind of tap into the egoic conditional programming and just see where the code is not allowing you to rewrite new code and to break that code. We are computer systems. It is well advised that you start treating yourself like a computer system, as in when you recognize a narrative that maybe isn't as nice or supportive, that you say it out loud and then you say delete, and then you start, magically using your fingers like you're typing on an imaginary keyboard, and you're saying out loud the sentence that you would like to replace that deleted sentence with, that is more loving, encouraging, and supportive of what it is that you're trying to accomplish. This is how we override the system. So really start, treating yourself as a computer system, as a computer code, because we're nothing but zeros and ones. And when you understand that and you understand how to start manipulating your own code, your own programming, that is when the world changes for you, my friend. So I welcome you to kind of boss up and start experimenting with that. Yes, you're going to look a little bit cray-cray when you first start tapping on that imaginary keyboard in order to flip the script and rewrite the program. But guess what? You're already cray-cray, so you may as well just start having fun with it. Okay? What else do I want to talk about? So, yeah, that extraness, it can actually manifest in a state of manic. And for those of us that are stuck in this stagnancy, stuck in the state of paralysis, the manic phase is actually going to be welcomed. And we're going to get a lot done. We're going to accomplish a lot. We're going to make up for lost time. There's going to be major shifts, major opportunities coming into our realm. And I think that overall, we should all just kind of lean into the manic phases when they happen. And of course, I'm not trying to be irresponsible here. Mental health issues are a thing, but they are energetic in nature. So in no way am I trying to make fun of any kind of mental health issue where manic is a problem, because of course it can be. But when the energy starts fluctuating and it puts us all into high gear and we're kind of all over the place, but we're accomplishing more than what it is that we've been able to do in the last 3 weeks, I say work with the energy. I say have an awareness of yourself and an understanding of the inner complexities of your mental health and your energetic self. And be very cautious and very aware that you're not allowing yourself to go so far into an extreme where you're making problems for yourself. But at the same time, lean the F into any good vibes that come your way. whatever label you want to put on it, you go right ahead. But I, for one, cannot wait to get a little bit more physical energy back and to have the energy and attention that I haven't had over the last couple of weeks in order to get organized, in order to clean up the mess, in order to actually get shit done. So I just welcome you all to lean into that energy whenever it blesses you in your life, and just know that it doesn't come around, doesn't stay for very long. So I say take advantage of it when it comes. Now, because of all of this shifting, all of this energy kind of being manipulated in different ways, this is definitely going to have a major effect on our hunger. Of course, digestive issues are always a hot button topic when we're talking about ascension symptoms. And again, may I remind you, ascension symptoms are the central nervous system acclimating to the new energies coming in, the vibrations and frequencies of the electromagnetic frequencies coming in from the cosmos that affect our planet Earth. And so when we consider the fact that all ascension symptoms are a messenger of our body system letting us know where there's a blockage, and again, that blockage is emotional pain and trauma that lies very alive and well and awake in our unconscious programming, that is how you tell where the work needs to be done. The solar plexus right underneath our rib cage has been going through the greatest of the realignment, the recalibration that we've been going through since eclipse season shut the door. And now we are going through a higher gear. So we've been very focused. Let me put it to you this way. When we have a lot of earth energy in the cosmos, which we've had, connects us in our physical bodies. It puts us in our physical bodies, connects us very much to the earth. And that means that our lower chakra system is being activated and realigned. So from the heart space, and again, the heart chakra is the middle magnet, if you will, that connects the upper and lower chakra system to each other and has it flowing very nicely. But when we are in all of this earth energy, we have a tendency to be working with those lower chakras. And of course, the root chakra is about our survival. That's the egoic programming conditioning that we're looking to do the shadow work on to kind of release us to the connection of our egoic survival. We have the sacral plexus, which is responsible for our creativity, our sexual organs, if you will, the ability to plant a seed. And of course, that seed is the Kundalini spirit that we have an opportunity to rise up through the 33 vertebrae of Jacob's ladder, which happens to be our spine, in order to reach the pineal gland, to have that explosion, to release the milk and honey that we can absolutely activate, reaching us to new levels of vibrations and frequencies every month. When the moon makes an aspect with your natal sun, it happens for all of us. It happens every month. We have an opportunity every 28 days to reset ourselves. And that is where that seed starts, is down in the sacral. So then we have the solar plexus, which is right below the rib cage. This is our will. This is our strength. This is our determination, our identity of self. That's why it's kind of going through the hardest recalibration right now. And of course, it sits just under the heart space. And we've been having all of these heart activations in order to illuminate to us where in the lower chakra system we're too connected, too attached to the physical form, to our ego selves, the identity, the version of our reality in which our ego self is created. Therefore, breaking those particular ties, detaching from those constructs, freeing us up to live into that raw, real, authentic heart space that, of course, Venus and Mars in Leo energy will have us very concentrated in over the next couple of weeks. And then we're seeing digestive changes. We're seeing hunger pains. We're seeing gas bubbles. Now, I don't think we're going to go full gas bubble, although we are going to be pretty burpy. I think that the majority of this energy is going to be manifesting in the back. So if you were to put your fingers underneath your rib cage, I want you to kind of imagine that you could draw a line, and where it is that you come out the back, which is kind of right between the shoulder blades, but down at the bottom of those shoulder blades, that's where we're going to see the most, I'm going to say, focus. Now, what does this mean? Well, it means that we're healing. We're letting a lot of the past issues go. That's what the back represent. And because we are letting go a lot of the issues, topics, and themes that our ego self has created that we are no longer attached to, and of course, leveling up to new versions of ourselves, this is why the hunger pain is going to kind of take place, or the gas bubble, whichever way it manifests for you, because we are essentially coming to a new level of life. And we are, again, with the energy increasing, with focus and clarity being had, we have a new thirst for knowledge. We have a new hunger and zest for opportunity, for growth, for expansion. So we're going to see it in that solar plexus as well. A lot of the itchy points we've been talking about, itchiness indicates healing. We're going to feel that in between our shoulder blades due to the solar plexus going through some, healing stages. But we're also going to be feeling itchy inner ears, again, with the head pressure, itchy throat, because again, we're going through this clearing. When Mercury busts out of Taurus energy and busts into Gemini energy, we're going to be using that throat chakra. Right now, we're kind of biting our tongue. We're holding things back. This is why we have to clear the throat. This is why, there's an itchiness going through the throat. While maybe you have a sore throat, dry throat, doesn't matter. There is a certain amount of dryness taking over because, of course, we haven't been in fire energy for a very long time. The full moon in Sag is fire energy, so it is bringing a dryness to our skin, to our eyes, to the mucosa in our body, trying to kind of evaporate all the congestion that we've been sitting in, and a lot of that, again, in the lungs, in the throat, because of Venus being in Cancer energy, a water sign. One thing that I want to talk about when it comes to our central nervous system, mostly our sensory system, I want to say. Yes, for the last couple of weeks, we've been seeing a lot of changes in our visuals. This week, I think we're going to see the most change in our auditory perception. So we are hearing things a little bit clearer. We are hearing signs and songs and symbols that may be interdimensional bleeds, but our sense of hearing is going to be magnified. And again, a little bit extra, a little bit more magnified because of Jupiter's energy as well. But I want you to pay attention to what it is that you're hearing that you didn't otherwise hear. Maybe you're picking up on electricity, maybe you're picking up on nature, maybe you're picking up on voices, whatever the case may be. It's going to be a full out magnification, an upgrade, if you will, of our auditory experience. Now, I want you to focus also on the lower extremities. So from your hips down, especially your ankles, cracking, clicking, where it is that maybe you stub your toe, where it is that maybe you're tripping over your own feet. There is, first of all, a connection here because the Sag energy connects to the upper thighs. Secondly, we are in a very interesting position where we're about to take action, and therefore we're holding that energy of anticipation and even fear of moving forward in our legs. And so we are going to feel the rigidity. It is very important that you continue to dance, continue to stretch. If you are having some dysfunction with walking or stability, really use those positive mantras with every step that you take. Make sure that you are, even though you feel like you just want to sit down, curl up in a ball, that you are exercising, that you are pushing your physical body to move that energy, to get that stagnant energy out of your lower extremities so that you will be prepped, stretched, and ready to take action when the universe says, hey, here's your green light, maybe you should go. We will be picking up speed. We are going from an absolute standstill to an absolute jaunt, an absolute sprint, an absolute race. So we're going to need to really pay attention to our footing and pay attention to our energy management. Again, there's going to be a lot of mental processing, but there's also going to be a lot of changing circumstantial, I'm going to say, paths, directions. We have information, we have details coming in, changing our path, changing the opportunity to move forward, and we're going to have to act quick. So we want to make sure that we are feeling safe and secure and stable in our physical bodies, knowing and trusting that our physical bodies are going to be able to kind of get us in this race and keep us in this race until we reach the finish line. But we are going to see speed pick up. And with that, the time warp is definitely going to be accelerated as well. So pay attention to when you're losing track of time, because that is a good indication of where it is that your soul self is returning to the higher realms, the astral realms, the informative realms, in order to kind of see, acting as the observer, the path, the movements that we need to take and moving forth. We drop back into the physical body. Suddenly we realize that we lost track of time. We're very, very kind of weighted in the physical body. Then we get to take action and kind of maneuver, if you will, through the obstacles, through the challenges of our current circumstances in order to kind of see where it is that the finish line is now in our peripheral. So if you feel spacey, if you feel disconnected, if you feel semi-euphoric, just know that that is a-okay. That is the stage that we're in. We are coming out of stagnancy into a time of action. So there is an overlap there. Time is being warped again. So that is another reason for that as well. And I want you to pay attention to how your sleep is going to change this week as well. And along with that, the dreamscape. There should be a huge dramatic impact both in the colors of your dreamscape, the information that you retain upon waking, and thirdly, hints and clues that are a little bit more, I'm going to say, interesting instead of nightmarish in nature. We are starting to see some hints and clues emerge in our dreamscape that absolutely apply to our waking lives, and you should be kind of jotting down as much as you can remember within the first 5 minutes upon waking. Have a dream journal or actually record it in a voice note upon waking, because you're going to reflect back on these particular aha moments in a couple of weeks and just be absolutely amazed that you were able to pluck this particular guidance out of your dream state. So guys, I think that that's all that I have to say for this week. I did kind of cover the majority of what I had written down here, so I feel successful in achieving that. I just want to thank you so much for being here, for spending your time, your energy with us here in the chat. And of course, if you're catching me on a replay, drop me a comment below, an emoji, if you will. Let me know that you were here. I appreciate you stopping by. I want to thank everyone for the love and support and for loving and supporting each other. I send you nothing but love, and I hope you have a great week. We'll talk to you soon.